Okay, Facebook friends. Just wanted to invite all of my YouTube friends to come and hang out with this special event, Cabin Fever Series Net. Thanks for checking us out and hanging out with us tonight. You guys will be able to monitor the RF portion of the net. There will be no video, but the net logging screen will be available for you to view. So check that out, hang out with us, and use this as a tool to check your audio. About a minute to go before Nick comes on the air to go live, so just chill with the dead space, and we'll check back with you after a while. I'm going to mute this microphone. I might not even be in the room. So feel free to make comments. They won't be moderated. There won't be anybody in here, but in any case, we'll look at them after the fact. We'll catch everybody after the net event.
Activating North Georgia GMRS Regional Net in 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the North Georgia GMRS Regional Network, Cabin Fever Special Edition. Your net controller this evening will be Atlanta 291, WQYJ 279, Nick, located in Ackworth, Georgia. This evening's topic will be covering all things technical concerns, technical questions, how technology has shaped your cabin fever experience based on COVID-19, and any other technical issues you can think of. If you're in earshot of this repeater and have no idea who we are and want to find out more about our organization, you can learn more about us at nggmrs.org. That's November, Golf, Mike, Romeo, Sierra.org on the web. At this time, I will go ahead and take check-ins from any Zello participants in our network. Any check-ins from the Zello network, please call Net Control now.
Noonan 45, WREJ 789, name's also EJ.
Net Control would like to acknowledge Noonan 45. I believe the name was EJ. I'm assuming located in Noonan, Georgia. Is that correct? Noonan 45 from Net Control. Need to confirm your name and location, please. All right, perhaps we're having some Zello difficulties. Any other check-ins via the Zello network, please call Net Control.
Net Control, Noonan 45, you need me to repeat?
Yes, name and location, please. I think I caught EJ, but I wasn't real sure. It was a little staticky in there.
I am mobile, I apologize. I am in Noonan, but I'm mobile right now, still in the Noonan vicinity on Zello.
All right, good enough. We'll take it. Any other check-ins from the Zello network, please call Net Control now. Nothing heard. Moving along to Pine Log check-ins. Any stations wishing to check in via the Pine Log repeater, please call Net Control now.
This is Atlanta 210, WRCK 347, Stephen in Roswell.
This is Atlanta 275 WREB 972, Ken in Canton.
This is Atlanta 80 WRFN, Scott in Dallas.
This is Atlanta 276 WREB 972, Kirby in Canton.
This is Atlanta 91 WQX. This WQ735. Got that all wrong. Alfonso from Marietta, check it in.
All right, we'll go ahead and take a break there. Net Control would like to acknowledge Atlanta 275, Ken in Canton, Atlanta 80, Scott in Dallas, Atlanta 276, Kirby in Canton, Atlanta 91, Alfonso, not quite sure what his call sign is, in Marietta. Any other check-ins from the Pine Log repeater? Please call Net Control now.
Let me give you my call sign. WQXN 735.
He is redeemed with the technology gods, folks. All right, any other check-ins from Pine Log? Please call Net Control now.
This is Atlanta 261, Scott from Holly Springs, checking in.
This is Atlanta 946 WQYR 514, Justin in Woodstock. Check me in, and then check me out, and then check me in again.
This is
Atlanta 57 WQZC 882, Andrew in Holly Springs.
This is Atlanta 210 WRCK 347, Stephen in Roswell.
All right, that seems like another good place to take a pause for acknowledgments. Atlanta 261, Scott in Holly Springs. Atlanta 946, Justin in Woodstock, who is in and out and in. So I think he's still in, but we'll find out, or maybe not out because he's in. I don't know. We'll get back to that in a minute. Atlanta 57, Andrew in Holly Springs. Atlanta 210, Stephen in Roswell. Any other check-ins from Pine Log? Please call Net Control now.
This is Atlanta 780 WQUV 439, Houston and Austell.
This is Atlanta 947 WQIR 514, Julie in Woodstock. Nick, check me in and out, please. Got my hands full bathing dogs. Thank you.
All right, hearing a bit of a slowdown there, we will go ahead and acknowledge Atlanta 70, Houston and Austell, and open it up to any repeater, anywhere, any repeater in the North Georgia GMRS network, or any other way that you're managing to find your way into our broadcast this evening. Please call Net Control now.
WQMN 733, Atlanta 36, Bill on the Taylor's Ridge machine.
Atlanta 948, WRER 430, Woodstock, Gary. Check me in and out, Nick.
Atlanta 946 WQIR 514. Nick, you missed 947. Go ahead and show her in a log, and she is in and out. So by relay, I suppose. But in any case, there you go.
All right, Net Control will take a break there and acknowledge Atlanta 36, Bill, coming in through the mighty Taylor's Ridge machine. Sounding pretty good this evening, Bill. Atlanta 948, Gary in Woodstock. Got you in and out, Gary. And by most apologetic form, Atlanta 947, Julie in Woodstock, in and out as well. Sorry to our most gracious hostess. I did not hear your traffic at all, but glad to hear that you're out there this evening. Any other check-ins from anywhere in the North Georgia GMRS network, please call Net Control now. All right, folks, don't hear anyone else checking in, so that's okay. If you didn't get a chance to check in with us, we're going to take everything back to the top of our programming menu for this evening and start walking down through individual comments, questions, concerns regarding technology from folks. And don't worry, we'll take a break here a little bit later and check in and see if there's any other folks that want to check in or late joiners to our North Georgia GMRS regional network. With that, we will start at the top, Noonan 45. What technology things do you have for us this evening? Whether it's a technical tip, question, concern, snide remark. Well, wait, maybe not snide remarks. This is a family-friendly network. But Noonan 45, what do you have for us this evening? Noonan 45 from Net Control, do you have any traffic for us this evening? Nothing heard. With that, we will go ahead and move on to Stephen in Roswell, whose TAC number I inadvertently failed at properly typing into the computer. Another lovely technology feature. Stephen, if you could correct me on your TAC number, and what do you have for us regarding technology and the lovely current cabin fever situation we find ourselves in?
Hey, this is Stephen in Roswell. It's TAC was Atlanta 210 WRCK 347. Copy.
Atlanta 210 it is. What do you have for us, sir?
Oh, right now I've got a cold beer in my hand and a lot of sweat. I just ran a J-pole tuned for GMRS through the attic, out ductwork, temporarily down to my makeshift coronavirus emergency station. So I tried to hook it in. I haven't tested it yet, so we'll see how it goes.
All right, Stephen, and if I can ask, what is your antenna connector of choice? I know, at least personally, I find myself an N-type connector kind of person. Just wondering how you went about doing that, maybe what feed line you used, some more lovely technical bits. Atlanta 210 from Net Control. Just asking if you had a connector type or feed line of choice that you used for that antenna installation today. Well, hopefully that doesn't mean bad things for his antenna installation situation, but we'll circle back around to him when we open up the floor later. Atlanta 275, Ken, what technical things do you have for us this evening?
Well, I'm in the process of setting up a base station here at my house. I purchased a Slim Jim antenna. I'm going to go with the end connectors. I'm going to use LMR 400 cabling, which I have not purchased yet because I don't know the length that I need. Let me cycle. Then I've got a TYT base station with a power supply, and I'm going to, in the process of setting that up, and I'm going to use on the antenna that I got was a Slim Jim, and I'm going to use a bow device that I've read up on the internet for, like they use PVC, like a 3/4 1-inch PVC, and I'm going to hang that from a tree. This is my first base station, and I figured I would just use this, and once I go to a more of a permanent situation, I'll put that into a bug-out bag, if you will. So I've got all the components here except for the LMR 400 cable, and any advice given would be great. And I need to make sure all this works before I drill through the hole and my wife shoots me. So I have a brick house, and I'm having a hard time wanting to drill through the hole on my brick.
Well, I can completely empathize with your position there. I have the concrete siding and all that stuff, and I was still scared to death of mine. And on the topic of like NMO antennas on the car and things like that, I was scared to put a hole in the roof of my car back in the day. But I've kind of gotten over a lot of that. I think after the first time or two that you do it, you start to get a little bit more comfortable with making holes in things. I understand that a brick house is a little bit more intense and takes a little bit more care and feeding to get through. Hammer drills are a lovely thing for brick. If you didn't already know that, I'm sure you probably did, but hey, putting it out there anyway. Let me cycle. As far as the LMR 400 run goes, I struggle with the same thing. I'm a terrible visual estimator of distance by eye anyway. I've heard of people using things like kite string and kind of stretching it out and getting a general feel for the length. I've also been a big fan of get somebody that has a really big reel of it. You may not know, with LMR 400, there is a number that is on the casing of the wire every foot or so. Well, actually, it's about every foot. And that indicates the number of feet that place in the wire is on the spool. And you can just kind of start at the beginning with a number and see what that number is when you finish and cut it off. Subtract one from the other, and there's your rough footage. You can kind of pay somebody back for the use of their big reel at that point. Do we have any folks on the network this evening that have any LMR 400 in bulk quantities that would be willing to help Stephen out with his cause here? Or sorry, help Ken out. Let me cycle again. Help Ken out with his cause here. All right, hearing nothing. I guess we don't have any folks with any bundles of LMR 400 laying around, but I don't know, you might try the kite string technique. You could always use a tape measure, and I have noticed a couple of folks post some things about some antennas installs lately, and don't forget your RF choke like I did on mine. I have to go back and redo my LMR 400 now, which is not a cheap endeavor, thanks to forgetting an RF choke. But yeah, just things to consider when you're doing the rest of that part. But other than that, best of luck on that, and we'll come back around to you, or if you have any other things for us, we'll get them from you when we open up the floor for general comments. With that, we'll move along to Atlanta 80, Scott in Dallas. Scott, what technology things do you have for us this evening?
Well, I'm pretty new to all of this, so I'm just kind of kicking back and listening to all the technical expertise going on. I have recently set up a base station with the Motorola CDM 1550, and I got a ground plane antenna 5/8 over half, about 30 feet in the air. Seems to do pretty good, but tonight I'm actually on my deck with my little Midland trying to get out.
Well, given your location in Dallas, and depending on the repeater, actually you checked in through Pine Log, so you're hitting Pine Log pretty well for an HT from Dallas. I don't know if you've got line of sight or some pretty decent telemetry, but yeah, you're sounding pretty decent from it. And boy, isn't that CDM 1550 an absolutely awesome piece of equipment. You'll find out through the rest of the net this evening. I am a Motorola fan, self-professed, and Atlanta 60 might cut my connection for that, but hey, it is what it is. But yeah, it's definitely some good equipment you're working with there, and it sounds like you've got a really good setup for an antenna and really good telemetry, at least in the Pine Log. So, incidentally, which band split of UHF CDM 1550 did you buy?
I actually got two of them from Chuck at the Pike County Communications. I got one in the car and one at the house here, and they're the upper band UHF up to 512.
Very cool, very cool. Yeah, I had one of those as well, and it was a great radio, and I believe Atlanta 36 might still be using that piece of equipment out there somehow. But yeah, definitely great equipment. Well, thank you, Scott, for your information, and hopefully we'll speak a little bit more geek and get you some more things that you can use to help you further your cause along. By the way, let me cycle real quick. I will go ahead and put it out for general consumption. I do not profess to be an expert on much of anything. However, I know a few things about a few things. So, you know, my subtle disclaimer is take what you hear from me on the net or from really anybody else. Do your own research, compile your own information. Feel free to learn more and educate yourself as much as possible before you do things like putting holes in walls and making spouses upset. With that, thank you, Scott. We'll move on to Atlanta 276. Kirby in Canton. Kirby, what do you have for us this evening?
Oh, I'm in the same boat. I'm just sitting around listening. I'm fairly new to the radio world, so I just figured I'd just partake in this and see what I could learn.
Well, we are most definitely glad to have you along for the ride this evening. I know it's a little bit out of cycle for this net, but we're glad for all the folks that showed up this evening just to maybe regale themselves with a little bit more information on the hobby or the sport or the art, as you may hear various people refer to it. Hopefully we can, again, come up with some information to help you along the way and help you further yourself along with your plans. We'll move along to Atlanta 91, Alfonso. Alfonso and Marietta, how you doing this evening? What technical things do you have for us this evening?
I'm doing pretty good tonight. How you guys doing? I have a question. Motorola HTs. I'm not familiar with them. I want to possibly buy one day and program it, but which one is the easiest one to get for our band, and how easy is it to program?
Well, Alfonso, you have backed me into a question that everyone will want to argue with me on, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I will actually open the floor up to comments after I close out my thoughts on this and see what everybody else in the group has to say about it. Personally, I find that anything from the Flashport series forward, so that's going to be your really your later HT models or anything into the XTS line or XTL if you're going for the mobile radio line, is really a good place to start. I actually noticed recently in talking with Atlanta 57 that there are some fairly cheap UHF XTS 1500s available on eBay right now. Let me cycle. You have to watch what your flash code is. There's a great website that I can refer you to that offers you the information. Usually the seller will list the flash code of the radio. You type in that flash code to the website, and it tells you what features are available on that radio. It all depends on if you're looking for crazy things like, I don't know, trunking or some of those other fancy features that we don't necessarily use in the GMRS world, but they're out there, and you can definitely get a read on what that radio's features are, and who knows, maybe even program it to monitor things like public safety or other entities if you're looking at other bands that use other technology, digital technology such as P25, let me say. On the topic of programming, I don't know that any particular Motorola radio is easy. There is a rather steep learning curve and acquisition curve to getting the software. Motorola does not issue their software for free or cheap or make it readily available to folks on the more casual side of the market. Motorola tends to market themselves towards the professional or business or public safety market. So they're looking for collecting your tax dollars vis-a-vis that method, and probably many others, based on the price of their radios. So used radios, very cheap. Start with the XTS line would probably be my preference for something that's still very serviceable or easily available and still relatively cheap. Let me cycle again. And on the topic of programming, don't ever set yourself up for a 60-second or a 30-second talk-out timer, because that's what I'm currently fighting this evening. With that, I'm going to go ahead and open it up to the floor. Does anyone have any comments for Alfonso regarding Motorola HTs, their experience with programming them, or any sort of insight that you can offer Alfonso? Please call net control for acknowledgement.
Atlanta 36.
Oh, Atlanta 36. Bill, I knew you would have something for us. Go ahead, Bill.
I just want to throw out one of my newer Motorola's, and it's probably decades old, but the HT1250. I picked it up at the Lawrence Ham Fest, and Atlanta 517 was able to help with the programming. I'm currently looking for a battery and a charger, and I talked with you, I think, about even looking at the lithium.
Well, I had you bounce out on the end for me there, Bill. Something about the HT1250 looking for batteries and all that other stuff. Is that something you're actively looking for equipment for, asking for the group to see if anyone has the equipment available? Well, I don't hear anything back from you, Bill. You might have to reposition or stand on one foot, potentially stick your tongue out the opposite side of your mouth or something funny to get your signal in there. On that note, though, the HT1250 actually is the same age as the CDM1250. They're kind of partners in crime, so to speak, HT versus Mobile World. They definitely are well suited for any analog applications you have, can do fun things like MDC 1200 and all those other great features. Definitely a solid radio, not heavy on the belt. They don't weigh nearly as much as the XTS. Those radios tend to be very chunky with those nickel metal hydride batteries. The XTS series does have available a lithium-ion battery that's much slimmer and cuts the weight of the radio almost in half for about the same service life of the battery. So with that, I'm going to try one more time. Bill, have you repositioned yourself?
Actually, over on Pine Log right now, am I getting in? I dropped out on Taylor's Ridge. Can you copy?
Well, it sounds like you're sitting in the same room as me, Bill. So, yeah, you're back in with us. What you got?
All right, I went out somewhere in there, but just wanted to say that 1250 looks like a great radio. I'm going to shop for a battery and charger, probably off eBay, but looking in unless someone's got one, especially on the charger. But HT1000, JT1000, great radios, but this one seems to look like a really good workhorse Motorola. Back to net control.
Thank you, Bill, for your feedback regarding the HT1250. All right, Alfonso, we'll come back around to you during the open. Got to get through the rest of the folks here on the net to see what their comments are as well. Thank you for your contribution. Atlanta 261, Scott in Holly Springs, what do you have for us?
Sir, this is Mr. Vaughn, Atlanta 261, WRCT 399. I'm actually holding in my hand an HT 1250 Motorola. I'm not sure if I need to charge the battery, blah, blah, blah. Make a long story short. In one sentence, can I ask what is the difference between wideband and narrowband on the GMRS frequency?
One sentence is nearly impossible, but I will do my best. It may have a lot of semicolons, some commas, and ellipses, but I'll get you there, I hope. So the difference between wideband and narrowband is basically how broad is your signal that you're transmitting. So think of it in terms of a big cone coming out of your antenna in the form of your broadcast. When you transmit in narrowband, the scope of that and the focus of that is much narrower. It takes out some of the highs, some of the lows, makes it a lower bandwidth transmission. And when you use wideband, it's much fatter, has the potential to bleed over to other things and nearby frequencies, and generally speaking, can carry more data. So things like more depth and breadth of your voice. So you'll notice that your narrowband radio transmissions tend to be a little bit more tinny and not nearly as substantive as wideband. Interesting side note on that, and then I'll get back to you for more. But the GMRS sort of recently changed, the FCC changed the rules for GMRS, taking it from 25 kilohertz spacing to 20 kilohertz spacing. So for those who have a chance to reprogram their radios, you might want to look at that. 25 kilohertz to 20 kilohertz, and I can make more information available for that for anyone that's interested. So back to you, Scott. Why the question regarding that, just for information?
Sir, I really appreciate it. Yes, because I acquired a Kenwood and was playing with the programming, so forth, and it didn't want to blah, 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 like my, as far as Atlanta 9.8, talking about wideband versus narrowband, and this and that. But I didn't send a screenshot, but it was just, I acquired from Kenwood, and then now I'm transmitting on a TYT out here in the driveway.
Well, your signal into the machine sounds great, so I think what you've got is working out pretty well. Where it gets interesting for wide versus narrowband is you'll notice that if a narrowband transmission is being broadcast with a PL tone, a lot of times if you have a wideband setting on your radio with the same PL tone, your radio won't recognize it because of the way the radio handles bandwidth and the way that that frequency is broadcast in there. Narrowband modulates that ever so slightly, and it'll sometimes actually not work on a wideband configuration. So it's definitely something to check when you start having issues with your radio. So thank you for the question, and I'm going to go ahead and move along to see what else we can get into this evening, and we'll circle back when we open up the floor. Atlanta 5-7, Andrew in Holly Springs.
Good evening, Nick and everyone on the net. Hey, back here, speaking of Motorola, back here in the backyard at the moment, talking on a XTS 2500. Hopefully my signal's okay. I'm kind of moving around here in the backyard and got a whole bunch of people out here, so if the background noise is pretty heavy, I'm sorry. But nonetheless, yeah, good conversation so far. I can tell you that my preference for coax is times LMR 400. In connectors where I can, but of course a lot of different equipment does not have that. So those are my kind of preferences as far as that's concerned. And then, yeah, definitely like the Motorola equipment. Definitely have nothing bad to say about Kenwood whatsoever. But just for some reason, I switched over towards the Moto side, and definitely enjoy the challenge of programming and, you know, figuring things out along the way. It's a lot of fun, and of course, that's part of the hobby.
Of course, it certainly is. And for the folks who are interested in Motorola programming, as you can tell, you don't have to reach too far within the group to find some folks who have some experience with it. So feel free to reach out via radio to any of the folks that are here and see who can help you out with any programming. I know I have quite a few radios that I can program, you know, model-wise with Motorola, and I know some others who have quite a few more. So thank you for your contributions, Andrew. And yeah, you had a little bit of fade in with your signal, but I obviously could tell that that was from your movement and things like that. So otherwise, sounded great in the machine this evening. With that, we'll move on to Atlanta 210, Stephen in Roswell. All right, we'll give it one more shot. Atlanta 210, Stephen in Roswell. What do you have for us?
11, Stephen.
Whoever that last station was with traffic, you were static and very broken into the repeater. Let me quiet down for a moment and have you try that one more time, perhaps with a little bit higher elevation or a little bit more power, and let's see if we can get you in there. right, whomever that last station was, I still don't have you in the machine, so I'm going to go ahead and move on down the list. We'll hopefully come back around to you later when things quiet down. We'll go to Atlanta 780, Houston and Austell. Houston, what do you have for us?
780, WKUV 439. Good evening. Don't really have anything. The question on that change from 25 to 20 on the bandwidth, are you sure that that was not a typo?
Well, always trust but verify. I have not verified it against other sources other than the one source that I found pointing to the FCC, but I can always go back and research it a second time. I did notice that they did some realignment with the frequencies to maybe perhaps set us up for another repeater pair, which changing from a 25 to 20 kilohertz spacing would have set us up for. I will go back and verify it, though, again, and I will definitely get back out to you, but I definitely will check with the FCC one more time.
Hi, Roger. Well, I had this discussion with someone one time before, and I think that they had said there was some research done on it, and found out it was a typo because most of these radios will not go down to 20.
Yeah, roger that. We were, actually, I was having this discussion with Atlanta 60 the other day. Most of the equipment that most GMRS networks are stood up on is very rusty, trusty, older equipment that is tried and true that will only do 25 kilohertz spacing. So it's a very, very good point to bring up. Hopefully, maybe it is just a pure typo, and I came across some bad information. But yeah, I could see a lot of people maybe not necessarily being as quick to move on that, given that information and the way that their networks were set up.
Hi, Roger, Nick. Okay, well, that sounds like a good net so far. I'm just sitting back listening. So I'll let you carry on.
All right, thank you, Houston, for your input. And at this time, I'm going to go ahead and take a pause and see if there are any other folks that want to join us for the North Georgia GMRS Cabin Fever Tech Net. Any stations that wish to join the net, please call net control now.
This is Atlanta 517 WQXB 554. Since Bill mentioned my name, I figured I better check in and check out.
Net Control would like to acknowledge Atlanta 517. Yes, we did have your name come up a few times in either conversation or thought, so thank you for checking in with us this evening. We will show you in and out. Any other stations, anywhere, any connecting methodology that would like to check in with the North Georgia GMRS Cabin Fever Net, please call Net Control now.
Noonan 45. I was out of service area for a while. I apologize to all.
Noonan 45 from Net Control. We are glad to hear you back in. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to you, not hearing any other traffic. Noonan 45, what do you have for us this evening?
Noonan 45, yeah. I'm a newbie to the GMRS network. So my question is, what is an RF choke, and is it necessary?
Oh boy, so this is another interesting topic. So an RF choke is a accumulation of your feed line just below your antenna. The purpose of it is to form an inductor. The purpose is to actually, we'll just say for simplicity's purposes, reduce the amount of noise and other assorted things that come from the radio world. I don't want to oversimplify, but I don't want to undersimplify it as well. Basically, it's formed by creating around an 8-inch coil of about 8 coils of your feed line, as close as possible to your antenna. And the purpose is to kind of weed out some of the naughty noise that you get in there that you can never get rid of. So in basic terms, that's kind of what you're looking at. Does that help you any?
Yes, it does, but did I copy correctly? You said about 8 coils in what diameter?
So the real easy man's method is 8 coils at an 8-inch diameter. So roughly about the size of, well, a little bit smaller than a basketball, probably a little bit bigger than a soccer ball, somewhere in that neighborhood. And again, that purpose is to kind of coil it together in a, look at what an inductor is built of, right? It's just kind of a coil of wire laid side by side. And it can actually overlap. It doesn't have to be perfect, but again, just that purpose to kind of smooth out some of the electrical interference that comes from radio technology.
Copy that. I certainly appreciate it, Net Control.
Not a problem, sir. Glad to be of help where I can be. Does anyone else from the floor have any other information regarding an RF choke or their use of it, or any other feedback that we can give Noonan 45 on an RF choke?
Atlanta 80.
Atlanta 80, Scott, the floor is yours.
Now, is that RF choke used for any type of antenna or specifically just a ground plane antenna?
This is another one of those widely debated topics. Some folks say it's necessary, some folks say it's not, some folks say it matters on this type of antenna versus another. I guess I'm kind of the opinion if it's an option and it's something that people recommend, maybe try it and see if it works better for you, especially if you have noise in your transmissions that you can't get rid of. So I guess to answer your question directly, I would say pretty much any antenna type.
Thank you. I'm standing by.
All right. Anyone else with any sort of input regarding an RF choke? All right, hearing nothing, we will move down to our last formal check-in of the evening who wish to remain in. Atlanta 36, Bill in Taylor's Ridge. Atlanta 36, what do you have for us this evening?
Well, shopping for the battery for the HT1250 and charger. I have some Vertex standard radios that have been successful in getting into the program with a couple of people, but no one's been able to actually get through the password part of it. So anyone with any data on Vertex standard GX4800 UT, it's a mobile in the cycle. A GX4800 UT, and then I've got the accompanying portables. Used them for years on a 400 trunk system. They do conventional, but they're kind of quirky on the programming, so going to fool with those later. And then am actually all set up and trying to program a couple of max tracks as we speak. I'm making it through the program, and I won't belabor this now. I'll probably get with you maybe later. But it's making it through and communicating. It's beeping, but it's claiming it's unable to read it. So probably some issues there, as we discussed earlier, about the Motorola and the programming. Never easy.
Yeah, for sure. Anything that is Motorola MaxTrack, you essentially have to have as old as possible of a computer running actual MS-DOS, which obviously predates Windows for those who are computer savvy. And that has to run the MaxTrack software inside of DOS, and you have to have an actual physical serial port, which most machines made since, probably 2010 do not have anymore. So you're looking at some pretty old equipment to still get a MaxTrack program these days. Let me cycle. I know I personally have a MaxTrack 300 that I would absolutely love to get programmed in VHF, that for some other 2-meter things in the ham world. But it has been absolutely stubborn working with my rib box and everything else to try to get it programmed, and just cannot seem to get it to communicate properly. So I guess what we have here is a failure to communicate. Anyway, back to you, Bill. Any other things that you want to contribute to the net this evening?
Well, and grant you on every part of that, and I'm running it on an old tough book in DOS, and it's communicating by it, so it is beeping. But I've got a 5-in-1 cable, and then I've also got one that comes actually to the serial port, and then I've got one that comes through a USB that's supposed to work. But gonna fool around with this a little later, just trying to set it up and endeavor to get a little further down the road. And then we'll just be standing by for anything else of interest. Great net. Back to net control.
All right, Bill. Thank you for your comments, and I'll start looking around and see if I can find anything on that Vertex standard radio for you. Typically, those programming passwords are a thing and a half to get past, so we might have to do some fancy things with it. Who knows? With that, I don't have any other formal check-in, so I will go ahead and ask, is there anyone out there that would like to check into the North Georgia Regional Cabin Fever Net Special Tech Edition? Please call Net Control now. All right, I hear no other check-ins. I will go ahead and open up the floor. Is there anyone on the net this evening that has any other technical topics that they would like to cover or talk about or bounce off of other folks? If so, please call Net Control now.
Atlanta 80.
Atlanta 80, Scott, go ahead.
Yes, sir. My VCR keeps flashing a 12, and I can't seem to get it to stop. Do you have any advice on that one?
Classic. You know, I guess I'm of the opinion if you're still using a VCR, I don't know what I can do to help you with technology. But no, there's actually a wonderful program for that if you can actually find the remote. That seems to always be the problem when it comes to those pesky VCRs.
Well, thank you. I'll look for that remote.
Glad to help. Anyone else with traffic for the North Georgia GMRS Cabin Fever Net, please call Net Control now.
Nine 946 with a comment.
Of course. 946. Go ahead with your comment.
Nick, I just wanted to say that you sound fantastic on the net tonight. I think you're doing a fantastic job. I love the topics and the questions and the comments that have been made so far, and really appreciate you stepping in and doing this net for us. So thank you for that, and that's my comment right there.
Well, thank you, sir. I definitely appreciate it. It's a little bit of a change of pace for me, but I think after the first 5 or 10 minutes, anyone will agree with you. It tends to fall in line, and you start following a bit of a routine, and things kind of fall into place. So I would definitely say if anyone else out there is interested in becoming or being a net controller for one of our Cabin Fever nets, hopefully these crazy things can end at some point, reach out to Atlanta 946 or Atlanta 947. And see if they can hook you up with a weekend schedule to be one of these crazy net controllers on our crazy Cabin Fever net. Let me cycle. With that, does anyone else have any other questions, concerns, or topics regarding technology or anything else for the net? If so, please call Net Control now. All right, hearing no additional traffic, just for everyone's information, we had a total of 16 check-ins this evening. 16 check-ins for the North Georgia GMRS Cabin Fever Net Technical Edition. With that, I will go ahead and ask one more time. I'm going to give you one more chance. Any other questions or concerns regarding technology or anything else going on in the world that I might be able to help you with or give you an answer that doesn't really mean much of anything anyway, please call Net Control now.
This is Noonan 25, Joe, WRCL 957, late check-in. Sounds like you guys had a good net. Sorry I missed it. My daughter came home for dinner, ate and promptly left and went back up to Atlanta. But anyway, good to hear everybody tonight.
Net Control is going to go ahead and acknowledge Noonan 25. Joe, thanks for joining us this evening. And, you know, a late check-in is still better than no check-in. With that, I did not hear an in and out, so I will ask any technical questions or concerns that you have for the net that we might be able to help you out with.
Man, that is awesome. No, doing okay here. Unless you can fix the virus situation. Appreciate you helping everybody, though. That's a great way to run a net. Back to you. This is Noonan 25 WRCL 957.
Thank you for the feedback, and yes, I too wish I could control this crazy virus situation and eradicate it. Unfortunately, this does not fall under the area of technology. Wrong kind of virus. Nice try, though. Definitely would love to get rid of it. I know personally I would love to be able to get out of the house and, I don't know, maybe talk to people again without feeling a little bit shady about it. So let me cycle real quick. With that, any other stations that wish to check in the North Georgia GMRS Cabin Fever TechNet Edition, please call Net Control now. All right, folks, let's make that a total of 17 check-ins in the log for this evening. With that, I would like to thank you for your participation this evening in the North Georgia Regional Cabin Fever Technology Edition net. I will go ahead and return the repeaters back to their normal use. If all stations that checked in could please check out, I would definitely appreciate it, and so would the FCC. With that, this is Atlanta 291, WQAJ 279. I'll be clear.
EJ, Noonan 45 out of Noonan, WREJ 789. We're clear.
Atlanta 80, WRFN 658, and I'm clear.
Atlanta 275, WREB 972, clear.
Atlanta 57, WQZC 82. I'm clear. Good night, everyone.
This is Atlanta 91, WQXN 735. Clear. Good night, everyone.
Atlanta 780, WQV 439. Clear, monitoring. Good evening.
Okay, YouTube folks.
WQMA 733, Atlanta 36, clear as a net. Great job, Net Control.
Wrapping this one up. We are just about done with all the check-outs. And just want to say thanks to Nick Weimer, Atlanta 291, for hosting this evening's TechNet. Hope that everyone who participated was able to benefit from it. I sure enjoyed the net tonight, especially since I didn't have to do anything. And yeah, that's the best way to run a net as far as I'm concerned. But in any case, appreciate everyone who's checking us out by way of YouTube. Look forward to hearing all of you again real soon. And I think this is going to do it for this edition of the Cabin Fever Series Net. So with that, thank you everyone, and we'll talk to you all on Thursday evening for our regular net.
Atlanta 101, Atlanta 100.
And that's outside of net traffic. That's just a regular call. So we're going to go ahead and clear up. Thank you again, everyone. Good night.